Welcome back, guys, to my E3 highlights coverage. I'm Oink, of course, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about Sony's press conference at E3 this year. Now, they started off, obviously with a little montage thingy, but they started off the conference addressing the outage. I think they did it quite well. They had Jack Tretton is his name, the sort of like head chap at Sony. I'm not entirely sure on his position, but he was basically coming straight from the heart. It wasn't teleprompted at all. It was completely improvised on the spot. Came from him as someone who wanted to relate to the customers and to the people who have stuck with Sony. And stuck with PlayStation. It was, I think, a good way, and they kept it quite short. It was just maybe 3 or 4 minutes about that. Addressed it, got the apology out there, set things straight. That it set the tone. It was a nice way to start it off. So that was good from Sony. Now they had some good games on there actually, and that was some good things. I think they also had some good hardware, which is another thing Xbox and Microsoft didn't have. Theirs was all about new software, new ideas. Sony had some new hardware. Now the hardware that they were talking about is a new TV. So it's a PlayStation branded 3D TV, and it also comes with this funky little split screen technology thing, which looks quite cool. And it also comes with some Sony branded 3D glasses which go with it. So that's cool. It's something new. It's something a little bit different, and for those people who like having official Sony gear, that'd be quite cool for them. In terms of games, they had a few interesting things in there. First of all, I mean they had NBA, the new NBA thingy, the basketball thing. They had Kobe Bryant come up on stage and have a play. That was with Move. It's looking alright. I can't entirely see the point of having the Move in it, because you're not like running, you're just kind of using it to point at players and stuff, and it seemed a little bit pointless having Move, but the actual game looks really good. For basketball fans, that's going to be good fun. They had a trailer for Infamous, which was really strange, as Infamous actually came out the day after the conference. It's already out now. So Infamous 2 is already out, and for some reason they spent like 5 minutes talking about Infamous and had a little trailer. I thought that was kind of pointless. They could have just mentioned the fact that it was coming out, maybe shown like a 2-minute trailer, get on with it, but I felt that was a bit unnecessary. They got some Bioshock in there. That was great. They had a trailer for Bioshock. They had someone come in and talk about Bioshock, which is great because Bioshock 1 was a massive hit, and the new one looks great. I didn't play Bioshock myself, so I don't entirely get everything that's going on, but the trailer looked really good. It was really colourful. The gameplay looked quite cool, and certainly a lot of talk about Bioshock. So that was good that they managed to have that in there. They started with Uncharted 3, which was obviously, this is just, Uncharted has become massive and it's just got better and better and better. And Uncharted 3 again looks phenomenal. The graphics are better than any other game I've ever seen. Like, well, I don't know, they're fantastic graphics. Be some gameplay up on the screen now, you should be able to see, and it just looks really, really good. Also had Resistance 3. Now, I remember Resistance was one of the bundled games when PlayStation first came out. Resistance 2 was a little disappointing, and the graphics look okay. I don't know if they're going to get there with Resistance 3. I think they've showed it at E3 now, so it's going to get a little more hype and a little more popularity. But I don't think Resistance 3 is going to do it for them massively. To be quite honest, it didn't look particularly engaging. The gameplay didn't look massively enjoyable. Although it is, one of those PS3 exclusives, they're trying to sell it to the audience. They're trying to really get it out there, try and get the core fans back into a Resistance game. They talked about SSX, which isn't going to be PlayStation exclusive, but because it started on PlayStation, they've got some exclusive content there. They've got an exclusive thing you can play it, drive down a mountain or something. For those of you that liked Warhawk, which was the PlayStation Network exclusive 6-axis control game where you fly around and battle, and it got fantastic reviews. It did fantastically well. There's a new one of them coming out called Starhawk, and they demonstrated that a bit, and I watched some behind the scenes stuff on it, and that looks really good fun. They've taken away all of the 6-axis stuff. I would have thought it would have been a good idea to maybe have an option of having the 6-axis or not. They said that they did some talks and people didn't really like having the 6-axis in there. I don't know if that's going to be good or not. But the gameplay looks quite cool. It's kind of a mix between a shooter. It's got a bit of sort of RTS tower defense elements in there. It looks pretty interesting. It's a great idea. It's good that that's coming back. Sly Raccoon or Sly Cooper. I know it as Sly Raccoon. I don't know when I first saw it, I've only played a demo. I never played any of the games. It was a PS2 franchise. I remember it as Sly Raccoon, but they all talk about it as Sly Cooper, so maybe it was, I can't remember. But anyway, there's a new one of them coming out. They didn't show any gameplay. They showed a little teaser trailer. But I watched some gameplay later and some behind the scenes stuff, and it actually looks quite fun. It's sort of a platformer adventure game, I guess, action adventure platforming. Not something that I would necessarily be interested in. Sort of a similar situation to maybe Ratchet and Clank, where it's a really well made game, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will be getting that, so that's interesting. One thing that I did love, and they got just right, and they talked about some PlayStation exclusives. Battlefield 3. Now, this is one of the games of E3. They've showed loads of gameplay. It's received, massive amounts of hype. A lot of people are talking about it. And Battlefield 3 has been revealed that on PlayStation only, because they've got that Blu-ray with massive extra capacity that the Xbox it's not just only on PlayStation. I know this is kind of rebranding how they do it, but it's not only on PlayStation. It's only possible because they've got that extra space that Xbox just cannot have because they're limited to the optical DVDs. They just can't have it on there. PlayStation are getting Battlefield 1943 on the disc with Battlefield 3 for no extra charge, so that's really good. Great that they had that. On the whole, in terms of games, they focused a little too heavily on 3D, I felt, although it's one of those optional things, and it's not a massive element to the actual gameplay, which is good. No Last Guardian. For those of you that know of Last Guardian, you will have seen it at the last E3. Didn't even talk about it, although they did have a Shadow of the Colossus and Eco remastering from Team Eco, so they had that sort of, maybe instead you would have thought perhaps they would have talked about it then, but they didn't, unfortunately. So nothing still on that, although there is a couple more days and there's some developer roundtables and stuff, so possibly some more on that to come, but I do not know at this point in time. And the other big announcement is the NGP. It wasn't a reveal because everyone knew what it looks like. We knew it was called the NGP as a development name, but they named it now. It's called the PlayStation Vita, PSV. It looks great. It's got the dual touchpad, dual camera, everything. I'll show you some pictures on screen now. But it wasn't a reveal, so it wasn't particularly exciting. But they have got that name down. They showed some games down for it. There's an Uncharted game on it, and it looks really cool. And they've got that option and they've got some linking between PS3, some cloud saving, some multi-platform online play. So that's looking up to be really good. On the whole, I think I'd give them maybe an 8.5 and 8. It had some good games, but it was fairly bland. There was no real reveals. There was nothing like wow, there was nothing like the Portal 2 thing from Gabe Newell from Valve was last year. There was there's nothing like that, so there was no real shocks, no real big reveals. It was all fairly bog standard basic, and for that reason, I'll give it an 8.5. It was entertaining, but nothing too extraordinary, let's say. So 8.5 on that. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll be coming back with Nintendo's press conference in the next one, and I'll see you then. Peace.